Today I want to go through the post-spring depth chart as I see it for Ohio State offensively and defensively and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. As always, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to go take a look at the offensive defensive depth charts for Ohio State post-spring, right? So, I watched every bit of the Ohio State spring game because I was stuck at an airport in Los Angeles getting on a flight to go back home the first time. So I got to see quite a bit. And I know that already we're going to have a conversation about the wide receivers, but I think that we should really be focusing on the offensive and defensive lines because offensive and defensive lines tell us who is playing for national championships and not just who is going to be good. And while you could make an argument that the defensive line that Ohio State has right now is not its best, it's still certainly very good. And I really like what they have at offensive line, but let's just take a look at what we expect that to be, right? So start there, and then we'll go to skill players. At left tackle, we got Thayer Munford, which is really exciting for me because I want to see Kayvon Thibodeau line up against Thayer Munford in Columbus come September 11th. Oregon travels to Ohio State in what feels like a game that's going to have college football playoff implications, one of two on the schedule so far. Of course, September 4th, Clemson and Georgia play in Charlotte. That one is going to be awesome. Left guard, Harry Miller, but let's go down left tackle to 2 and 3 because it's too deep depth chart, right? So we got, DeJuan Jones and Grant Tuant, right? And then left guard, we got Harry Miller, Josh Fryer, Trey LaRoe. I like Luke Weipler at center, but we'll see how that goes. I know that you can do some moving and shaking on your offensive line. Usually you have to. We'll see how that goes. Matthew Jones, Jacob James. All right, so right guard is interesting to me because Donovan Jackson is one of the best guards that I've seen in a very long time coming out of the Houston Episcopal area. For those of y'all that don't know, Houston, Bel Air Episcopal, right? Not Houston Episcopal. Bel Air Episcopal is also where Jalen Waddle went to college, also where went to college. My goodness, RJ. Went to high school. Cullen Montgomery went to high school. Donovan Jackson went to high school. One of the best players in the country, and that's hard to do at offensive guard, but you also got Paris Johnson Jr. right there, and Paris has it all, man. He's going to be a dude. You're following up basically an All-American in Wyatt Davis and Paris Johnson. That's just ridiculous. Then Nicholas Petit-Frere at right tackle. Ben Chrisman is interesting here. I know Enoch is getting some buzz here, but I really like Ben Chrisman coming out of high school. Of course, you want to let that marinate. All right, defensive line. At end, you got so many choices here, but I think this is the year for Zach Harrison to step up and take over that mantle, left to him by one Chase Young, left to him by one Jonathan Cooper, if not in talent, but in leadership, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, right? But behind him, you could also see Jack Sawyer just as easily. Tyreek Smith, Tyler Friday complete that, what I think is going to be an absolutely outstanding foursome, but Javonte Jean-Baptiste is going to have something to say about this, and we'll see where that goes. But Jack Sawyer had the best spring game of anybody featured, which is really, really interesting considering he's an early enrollee and one of, a handful of 5-stars just going to be popping off. We'll talk about a few of them here, but you know what it is with Jack Sawyer, and you also know what it is with Larry Johnson Sr. and his defensive line. At defensive tackle, that 3 technique, Haskell Garrett retains his spot. Taryn Vincent's going to probably platoon in with him in the way that Tommy Togiai did. Tommy Togiai being drafted by the Cleveland Browns means that he's in between Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. Good luck in that division. And then at nose tackle, we got Antoine Jackson, Jarian Cage. Now, Noah Potter and Ty Hamilton, I understand, figure into this for a lot of people, but I'm expecting Taryn Vincent to come on in a big way. And if you can go too deep at that defensive tackle position, you're going to have a lot of fun if you're an Ohio State fan. Antoine Jackson's going to have to hold it down at that nose tackle position. I think Jarian Cage and Ty Hamilton can help you out there. All right, so let's go to the linebacking core for Ohio State, which is also really interesting because you lose Justin Hilliard, Baron Browning, my goodness, Tuff Borland, and Pete Werner, right? And I think 3 out of the 4 dudes Baron Browning was drafted, Pete Werner was drafted. All right, so Justin Hilliard and Tuff Borland, 2 great linebackers for Ohio State, but I thought that they would have better careers, if that's fair to say. Baron Browning was the dude that I thought for sure was going to be the monster of this group, just judging how he was playing in high school. And I don't see dudes that big, that fast, that are able to run that way. And hopefully he puts it all together at the next level and becomes that dude. Will linebacker. Taraja Mitchell finally is about to be the dude at will. We'll see who can challenge him. Maybe Kayvon Pope, maybe Cody Simon. We'll see. Dallas Gant, I don't think is getting a love here, but Reed Carrico, I love Reed. I really love Reed coming out of Ironton. Now, this gets interesting to me because we're all still trying to figure out what Henry To'oto is doing, and it feels like he's down Ohio State, Alabama. But since Tennessee just picked up Juwan Mitchell from Texas, we can also rule out perhaps his return to Tennessee. So we're all going to be waiting on that. At that bullet position, that hybrid nickel safety spot, Ronnie Hickman probably gets the start there, but Court Williams is a dude. Like, there's a lot of people that have been all in on Court Williams since he got to Ohio State, blew out his ACL, rehabbing from that, but should be ready to go come fall camp. All right, so moving to cornerback, Ryan Watts is my guy to start at one of those across from Sevyn Banks, though Cam Brown is probably going to push and push and push, but Ryan Watts was another guy that had an outstanding spring game. Well, I mean, Tyreek Johnson, Ja'Kalen Johnson, we'll see. Right, and that's because Jansen Dunn is going to be backing up Josh Proctor, I think, at that free safety spot. But if they want to run that press man single high coverage, they're going to need two shutdown corners who are long, who are rangy, who have tremendous long speed. I think Sevyn Banks and Ryan Watts give you the best chance to do that at start, but you've got depth in the form of Cam Brown and Tyreek Johnson. Ja'Kalen Johnson figures into that too. Slot corner. Lathan Ransom feels like he's going to get the start because, well, we will see what happens with Marcus Williamson, right? We'll have to see. And then there's Cam Martinez. And then at safety, as I mentioned, Josh Proctor. I like Jansen Dunn there. Bryson and Shaw is probably going to figure in as well. All right, now it gets fun, right? Because now we're talking about the skill players for the offense, which is the part of the conversation that a lot of people skip over when we talk about, I'm joking, everybody talks about the wide receivers at Ohio State, and it's one of the most popular topics of conversation inside of college football, especially since Jameson Williams went into the portal and came out at Alabama. Now, there is a contingent of Ohio State fan that does not believe that he was the third best receiver for Ohio State last year, to which I'm going, did you see how many catches he had? Did you see how many yards he had? Did you see how many TDs he had? He's the third best receiver that you had behind Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. That said, the room is the room, right? Like, if we're looking at the Z and the X positions, we're going to go Garrett Wilson at X. We're going to go Chris Olave at Z. We got that. Behind those dudes, you can go Julian Fleming, who's the number one wide receiver in 2020. You can go Marvin Harrison Jr., who also played outstandingly well in the spring game. You can go Jaden Ballard. And then when you get to slot, you can go Jackson Smith and Jigba or Emeka Egbuka, who's the number one wide receiver in 2021, or Cam Babb. Like, you have, like, I really want to know who the quarterback is going to be, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, because this is a Ferrari. Like, with the offensive line that I just gave you and that wide receiving core, to say nothing of these running backs we're about to talk to, you are inheriting one hell of an offensive machine if you're the quarterback, and it's really on you to make sure this thing hums right along and you distribute the ball to the playmakers. Now, at tailback, you know what it's going to be, right? It's going to be Master Teague to start, and then talk about Travion Henderson and perhaps Evan Pryor. Mayan Williams is probably going to figure into this for somebody somewhere, but I still need to see it. Say nothing to Steel Chambers, right? So, like, I'm a Travion Henderson guy. I think that dude is next. Like, could be the next 2,000-yard back at Ohio State behind J.K. Dobbins given just 1 or 2 years. He's that good. Tight end, Jeremy Ruckert, Cade Stover, Mitch Rossi. So, there is a dude, or maybe there's a group of y'all that believe that Jeremy Ruckert is going to be a first-round draft pick at tight end. I need to see a lot more before I do that, okay? A lot more, because you're comparing Jeremy Ruckert to Kyle Pitts for me. Like, that's a lot. You're comparing him to TJ Hawkinson. Like, that's a lot for me. Comparing him to Travis Kelce, that's a lot for me. Perhaps he's the dude, but we'll see. I mean, Kevin Wilson is hell of an offensive coach. I know that from his days at Oklahoma and before that in Northwestern. So, we'll see. And then, as I mentioned, quarterbacks. So, CJ Stroud, Jack Miller, Kyle McCord. If you're going off the spring game, you got CJ Stroud, then you got Kyle McCord, then you got Jack Miller. Like, Stroud put together the best offensive series that I saw from any one of these dudes. He looked like he was in complete control the whole time. McCord showed up like a 5-star player and played like a 5-star player. He's also got a kinship with Marvin Harrison Jr. They both went to St. Joe's Prep, and you know what the pedigree is with Marvin Harrison. And then Jack Miller, I think he's still growing into this. But the thing that I would point out to everybody about Ohio State and its quarterback situation is not one of those dudes has thrown a single pass in the scarlet and gray in a meaningful game. Not even an unmeaningful game. They have not thrown a pass in a real college football game. They haven't done it. Now, if you're betting on those dudes being great, more power to you. But when I talk to quarterback coaches and when I talk to people that know from quarterback play, experience and starts matter. As I said, you're inheriting a Ferrari. Your job is to take care of the football first and foremost and then be a playmaker, right? CJ Stroud gives you an opportunity to do that, as does Jack Miller. Kyle McCord, I think, is going to be an absolutely outstanding quarterback, but like, there's a reason why CJ Stroud got an offer from Ohio State, right? Not to say that there's not a reason why Jack Miller and Kyle McCord got offers from Ohio State, but you got to know CJ's story to really understand this. I mean, CJ showed up to an opening regional in California, ranked 838th in the country, and rode that 4-month circuit to Elite 11 MVP and was a 5-star for there for just a second, but a top 50 player in the country coming out of Rancho Cucamonga, California. And he feels like he has the same sort of skill set as Justin Fields. The knocks on him are stuff out of his control, like how slight he is, right? But when you look at him play, when you look at him throw, you believe in that dude. That's going to matter quite a bit, especially when you know that Oregon is showing up as a defensive team first, and they are going to come after whoever it is that Ryan Day starts. They are going to blitz him. They are going to put that man in pressure situations, and they are going to see how well he can hold up or not hold up. If it is CJ Stroud, it's going to be baptism by fire, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily want my guy to start against Oregon, but it's one hell of a way to make a statement in the shoe. And we expect the shoe to be at full capacity, so it's going to be one hell of a football game. All right, that is it for me. Doses.